Imagine living in a world where the very act of thinking about thought itself is considered radical, a time when philosophy is dominated by men debating abstract truths and logic, and women who dared enter the field were often dismissed before they even spoke. Into this world, in the winter of December 20, 1895 in New York City, was born Susanne Katharina Nauth Langer, a woman whose curiosity, intellect, and audacity would eventually reshape our understanding of mind, art, and human experience. Susanne Langer grew up in a household that valued education, intellect, and independence. Her father, a German immigrant, had a strong appreciation for culture and learning, and her mother instilled in Susanne a sensitivity to the arts. From an early age, she exhibited an extraordinary mind and an insatiable curiosity about the world. Unlike many girls of her generation, Susanne was encouraged to question, to explore, to learn, an upbringing that laid the foundation for her remarkable philosophical career. She attended Barnard College, a pioneering institution for women's higher education, where she studied philosophy and excelled in her classes. It was a time when women were still struggling to be taken seriously in academia, yet Susanne thrived, driven by a belief that thought and reason were universal human capacities, not restricted by gender. After Barnard, she pursued graduate studies at Harvard University, an institution where women could attend lectures but could not yet earn degrees, underscoring the barriers she faced simply because of her sex. Undeterred, Susanne completed her studies and continued to develop her philosophical voice. Early in her career, Langer was profoundly influenced by Alfred North Whitehead and the burgeoning field of symbolic logic. But what truly set her apart was her desire to go beyond mere abstract reasoning. She wanted to understand the human mind, not just as a machine for logical thought, but as a vessel for creativity, emotion, and meaning. While many philosophers of her era focused narrowly on epistemology or formal logic, Langer's vision was broader and richer. She sought to explore how humans experience reality and express it through symbols. This exploration led her to the study of art, music, and aesthetics, areas traditionally dismissed by philosophers as subjective or soft. Langer argued that art was not mere decoration or entertainment, but a profound medium for understanding human consciousness. Her 1942 landmark book, Philosophy in a New Key, proposed a revolutionary idea that symbols, not logic alone, are the essential tools through which humans think and understand the world. Language, art, music, dance, ritual, these are all symbolic systems that shape our cognition, convey emotions, and allow us to grasp the intangible. In Langer's framework, a symphony is not just sound, it is an organically structured expression of human feeling. A painting is not just color on canvas, it is a map of human experience. Langer's work was radical for several reasons. First, she challenged the prevailing notion that only verbal or mathematical reasoning constituted true thought. She insisted that symbolic forms, whether in music, visual art, or even gestures, embody rationality, meaning, and cognition. Second, she broke into a male-dominated academic world at a time when women philosophers were often marginalized or ignored. Third, her work bridged disciplines that rarely interacted: philosophy, psychology, art, and anthropology. She insisted that understanding human consciousness required a holistic view, one that acknowledged emotion, creativity, and symbolism as core to what it meant to think and live. Her approach to music, for example, was transformative. Langer argued that music expresses emotions that are structured, complex, and universal, yet cannot be fully captured in words. While most philosophers dismissed music as mere pleasure or distraction, she elevated it to the level of cognitive inquiry, insisting that the patterns of a Beethoven sonata or a Bach fugue reveal the architecture of human feeling. Similarly, her analyses of visual art treated paintings, sculpture, and dance as symbolic languages, each with its own grammar, syntax, and expressive power. Beyond her theoretical work, Langer also contributed significantly to the philosophy of mind and language. She was deeply concerned about how humans make sense of reality, how symbols function in thought, and how cultural artifacts carry meaning across time and space. She influenced later generations of thinkers, including semioticians, cognitive scientists, and psychologists interested in how symbolic thought shapes human perception, identity, and social organization. Her insights remain highly relevant today, particularly in an era where communication, virtual reality, and multimedia art are central to daily life. Susanne Langer's personal life mirrored the intellectual independence she championed. She married William Langer, an economist, and though she took his surname, she maintained a rigorous professional identity. Throughout her life, she navigated the dual challenges of gender bias and academic scrutiny, but she remained resolute. Her career spanned decades, during which she taught, published, and spoke widely, inspiring students and scholars alike. Those who worked with her often remarked on her sharp intellect, her clarity of thought, and her extraordinary ability to make complex ideas accessible without diminishing their depth. Even late in life, Langer remained committed to exploring the frontiers of philosophy. She continued writing on aesthetics, symbolic logic, and human cognition, blending empirical observation with philosophical insight. She was particularly concerned with the ethical and cultural implications of human symbolic creativity, arguing that how we use symbols, whether to communicate compassion or hatred, shapes the moral and social fabric of our societies. Her work consistently emphasized that the human mind is inseparable from the symbolic structures it creates, and that understanding these structures is essential to understanding ourselves. Susanne K. Langer passed away in 1985, leaving behind a legacy that is both profound and underappreciated. She reshaped philosophy's understanding of art, music, and human cognition, insisting that creativity and symbolic thought are central to what it means to be human. In a sense, she built bridges between philosophy and the arts, between emotion and intellect, between gendered assumptions of capability and the reality of human genius. For modern audiences, her work remains a treasure trove of insight. In an age dominated by data, algorithms, and technological abstraction, Langer reminds us that meaning, consciousness, and human experience cannot be reduced to logic alone. Symbols, whether musical, visual, linguistic, or ritualistic, are how humans encode their understanding of the world. They are how we express what it means to love, mourn, hope, or aspire. And Susanne K. Langer showed us that recognizing and studying these symbols is not just an academic exercise, it is a path to understanding the human soul. Her story is also a testament to perseverance and courage. A woman in a field dominated by men, she carved out a place for herself through sheer intellectual rigor, clarity of vision, and unrelenting curiosity. She did not merely participate in the conversation, she transformed it, expanding the very questions philosophy could ask and answering them in ways that continue to resonate. Susanne K. Langer's life teaches us that the most profound discoveries often lie at the intersections between disciplines, between art and intellect, between emotion and reason. She showed that philosophy is not merely a study of abstract concepts, but a living inquiry into human thought, creativity, and meaning. And for listeners today, her life stands as a reminder that true understanding comes not from limiting ourselves to one mode of thought, but from embracing the richness and complexity of the symbolic world we create and inhabit every day. In the end, Susanne K. Langer is remembered not just as a philosopher, but as a pioneer who illuminated the human mind in all its expressive, symbolic, and profoundly beautiful complexity. Her ideas continue to challenge, inspire, and guide those who seek to understand what it truly means to think, feel, and live.